trying to figure out my own journey of like, okay, I want to make movies, right? I want to write and direct. Like, how the hell do you do that in South Africa, in Joburg, where, let's be honest, our film industry isn't exactly much. It's not Hollywood.
Obviously, we got the first short film made, the beginning, and even that was a magic trick.
You hear like, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. But what happens if you do succeed? No one lets you know what to do after that, right?
Yeah. The Stick Up went on to win a SAFTA for Best Made for TV Movie. It got that accolade locally, and I think that also was a really good, sort of reflection of what we were doing. JS fam, please welcome writer, director extraordinaire, Brad Katzen.
Happy to be here. Thanks a lot for having me.
Are you going to use your American accent or are you going to use your South African accent?
I'm probably going to drift in and out, considering I've been told that no one can place my origin.
Yeah.
So it's like...
You're trying to stay mysterious.
Yes, definitely. That's the crux. That's the crux. But no, we just seem to have watched a lot of films.
Yeah, I think if there's anyone that is influenced by films and being like an absolute chronic consumer of film content, is you.
Just a slight.
I actually don't know where you find the time to be on top of the films that come out and you have seen it.
It's a job. Let me tell you, Shaun. It's a job, but we endeavor. I've make a point of trying to get at least 2 to 3 times a week a good film. At least once a night would be, back in the day, was that was just like a mainstay. But it's definitely been my consistent like barometer for relaxation, inspiration, all those things. Is like cinema. It's the happy place, you know. It's another world we get to explore and get lost in for a while, which I think's got some value, especially for my own endeavors.
Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, if you're catching this for the first time, I'm with Bradley Katzen. He is, what are you, Brad?
Sure.
I mean, Brad and I go way back, and I think we're going to try and take the next hour or so to really unpack our journey. But to establish, he and I co-founded and essentially co-own a company called 33 Films, which is our journey and effort to be filmmakers in a very challenging industry that is the film industry, be it in South Africa or worldwide. And in the last 10 or so years that we've been walking this journey, it's been an adventure. And I think for what it's worth, there's some stories to tell. So before we even get into any and all of it, let's just dial it back for a second. Do you remember how we met?
Like it was yesterday. Plays on repeat.
In your mind.
I can't remember if it was Maybelline or L'Oreal was the initial call, but I used to do the research and editing as a freelancer. Love Joburg. All these little flash frames coming in, cut to montage, you know?
Yeah.
Back in the heyday, I was a researcher for commercials and ads and stuff. Got into editing from that, and got a random call from our friends at General Post. Right?
Shout out.
Good time, G-Man. It was just another gig. I mean, for me, it was trying to figure out my own journey of like, okay, I want to make movies, right? I want to write and direct. Like, how the hell do you do that in South Africa, in Joburg, where, let's be honest, our film industry isn't exactly much. It's not Hollywood. Mm-hmm. But that is the goal. And it's like, okay, how do we do that? So best way I could figure it out was kind of just like find any kind of inroad, which seemed to be at least the commercial sector, because our commercials, you know, for a lot of the issues that we have in South Africa for the industry, our advertising industry is world class. You know, we've had some amazing stuff pumped out. We've won like Luries, like that was back in the day. South African ads were some of the best. And it seemed like a cool avenue to get into. And once upon a time, I got the call to go to Love Joburg, and in I walk, and who's my point man but Mr. Shaun Naidu.
Yeah. And I also remember how like we had linked to that gig and linked to the things we were doing around that, you just in one of the gaps somewhere said, have you ever considered film as a producer?
I can tell you the gap. Do you want to hear the gap too?
Yes. If you remember that kind of detail.
I remember that you asked, well, it was like about a week or two, I don't know, the gig that I was editing, but what was sometime during that time you were like, you want to go and grab lunch? KFC, across the road, or whatever, we took a walk. And yeah, you treated me to like a great meal at KFC, and it was awesome. And it was a
great meal at KFC. I don't know if the two
get some sponsorship, bro. I'm putting it out there, you know.
Not hating on KFC.
it's quality. It's there. But so we had a nice kind of chat, and I just recall how I think I got a rap, by the way. And I just recall that it was the first time like a producer had kind of stepped outside of that role. A little bit, and had a little bit more of a connection with the guy in the industry like that. And yeah, I kind of just got a sense with how we spoke and kind of getting how you spoke and hearing your take on stuff, that this might be something I could potentially tap into as a resource, you know? And from there, it was just a matter of me going, okay, I do want to make a movie. I've got something we can do. I wonder what fucking chances this guy would have to even say yes. And I think then I just pitched it to you.
And I remember because you know the thing about being a producer in any country, I would imagine, but being a producer, full stop, is you get a lot of that people that reach out to you, and I mean 10 plus years ago I was even my own starter position in spaces, so I wouldn't even say like at that time there were people lining up. But generally, in my role, those requests do come. And unfortunately, more often than not, the person saying it and asking these questions aren't up to scratch, right? They're just not, they think they're a writer, or they think they're, and they're wannabes. And
I was one of those people.
You can't put your energy into every request that comes up. And I can tell you for free, like at the time I would have been like, right. I think
you were probably.
I'm sure.
You're like, okay, cool, man.
And then came the script that you shared. And I remember reading it and thinking, my word, are we onto something with this boy? And and we had to obviously set off on our plan.
Well, yeah, the fact that you even said yes was a huge stepping stone, I think, because I think one of the things that, I guess for any aspiring creative or filmmaker or whatever out there, it's like, it takes a village, you know? And in my case, the village was Shaun.
Yeah.
Because it's about dividing and conquering and knowing like what your skill set is, what are you good at, and then trying to find and align yourself with the people who can do the stuff that you're not good at.
Yeah.
And in your case, man, it was just a matter of seeing that you had the right perspective. You had the right, also like, I think we shared that same aspiration of trying to like take ourselves to like as best as we can, our own ambitions about what we wanted in the industry and what we were trying to get out of it. And just being ready to kind of set on this journey together and be like, you know what, let's fucking go.
The other thing was like, obviously we got the first short film made, the beginning, and even that was a magic trick in and of itself, because I think we sat down and we said, how do we go into the spaces that we need to go into, and how do we start this journey? And like most filmmakers would find, a short film is a pretty good starting point.
It's like a proof of concept.
But even there, like there were so many, one of the big values I think we did have and that I maybe brought to the table was, thanks to the advertising industry, there were a lot of relationships in place, favors that we could call. And when you make your first anything in film, you're going to be relying on that a lot. There's never the resources just go. And so with the beginning, for just a short film that it was, so much went into it. And it's sort of from a producer point of view, it tells me that whether you're making a short film, a made-for-TV film, or a feature film, all of which we've done, the process is the same. The challenges are the same. And what do you remember about the beginning? Why do you put a "the" in all our films? The stick up, the beginning, the
definite article.
You want the definitive thing, right? With the beginning, our first short film, what do you think was one of the biggest challenges outside of money, which is a challenge on any film?
Yeah. Good question, hey? I'm trying to think back now. I suppose for me, it was gathering the crew. Like, sure, okay, get the money together. That was its own crazy saga, and we managed to scrounge that and got very lucky with some benefactors and family, friends, the usual story. But once that was there, it's like, okay, now we actually have to do this thing. Because, there's a funny thing where like you hear like if at first you don't succeed, try again. But what happens if you do succeed? No one lets you know what to do after that, right?
Yeah.
And for us, it was like we finally succeeded at getting this thing together and like getting the money together to actually do it. And now it was a matter of, okay, now put your money where your mouth is. Like this is like a sink or swim moment. And for me, I think the challenge was, finding the actors and the crew to like bring this whole thing to life and kind of take it off the page and onto the camera and into the production of it. Which was that was also like, I remember how we also had Tamisha Marsha, which was our actor and came on board as a producer. And he was also a huge instrumental part of bringing so many of those elements from in front of the camera. He helped source us our actress. He was performing for us as well. I mean, we kept the cast. It was literally just the two of them, right? Like that was the whole...
A few extras in a scene.
Latoya Mangezi was our delightful actress. And he had a connection with her. And I remember him and I going to meet her at her place and me pitching this whole thing to her, and her kind of at first being a little like unsure, but eventually coming around and, buying into what we were trying to do. And she was awesome as well. So like that was I just remember those elements being such a wild thing to watch formulate also, because it was like first time, little virgin filmmakers.
Yeah, I think what Brad is basically unpacking for us here is really that when you're making a film, it's such a long journey. And even though there's many elements that need to come together, money being one, so that you can at least afford to pay people and get them on board, there's still a certain amount of convincing that is required. And especially when it's a first-time filmmaker that hasn't got much else to show. And yourself as a writer, director, I think the earliest days of our journey was us proving that we can.
Doing as much as we could, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of like when you mentioned Tumisho, for example, by getting him in, it kind of opens up other areas that, we sort of now piggybacking off his credibility, his name, and more doors are opening.
100%.
And I think, for me, this conversation today, when I was thinking about you coming in and us having a chat and walking down memory lane, so to speak, which is really what I wanted to do with today, but more from the perspective that the potential viewer that has not had that opportunity to crack their first project and that is still looking for clues and information on how we went about it. Because obviously we're not sitting here as well, like in any kind of space of saying, we've done it, we've made it. We're very much actively on the road,
We haven't made jack shit. We're making it.
Yeah, so us, our journey is still an active one. But at least this is a nice moment through this platform that I'm playing with for us to just give some insights on what has been. I've been a producer 20 years this year. Believe it or not, and 33 films is already now 12 years old, not even 10.
Damn.
And so time does fly, and we've been blessed, and like I said earlier, it's been a journey for us. And the beginning kicked that off. I mean, we got to Cannes with that. Do you remember Cannes?
Do I remember Cannes? I mean, let me think. I think I got some parts, but I think that 100%, dude. The thing that I found for if I had to give any wisdom to where we're at right now, I would echo the sentiments of your delightful board that I'm staring at of just speak, just ask. I think that our success in that first stage was literally just going to people and being like, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Would you be keen to jump on board? Happened with, I mean, the reason we got Tamisha was because my sister had done his makeup, I think, on a production, and she's like, he seemed like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Reach out. I'm like, okay, let's ask. He was awesome. He said, yeah, same with how we found the funding. We just asked. We found some people that we were told could be potentially valuable, and we just reached out and was just like, this is what we're trying to do. We were open and honest that there's probably not going to be much of a return.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to support the arts and whatever, like blah, 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 that this could be a fun endeavor. And the movie gods shined and said, here we go. So we managed to then, bit by bit, kind of just build and eventually create our first sort of project, our first short film. And that was, I mean, by some miracle as well, accepted into the Cannes short film section.
Yeah, and I think I just want to track our timeline a little bit as we go, that this is now 2015 that we're in the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
We're now in 2025, so that's a good 10 years ago that we were there,
Yeah.
And funny enough, haven't been back in the 10-year journey since, we've not really. And I know you said this at the time when we were there, because we were on these red carpets and all the glam and the fun aspects that the festival offers. And I remember you saying that you don't want to come to this festival as an attendee. You want to come to this festival as a filmmaker whose project is here. And somehow 10 years later, we've not been able to do that.
We'll get there.
But it's exactly that, it's a journey that we're walking, and we've been to many other places that we'll talk about a little bit. But, Cannes being just quite a target and quite selective in what they accept and all of that, the journey continues.
Completely. I think that, the fact that we got a short film in there was a great validation that at least we were kind of on the right track, maybe, especially for our first time out the gate.
Yeah.
So that was like a victory in itself. And kind of going back, to me, it's just like a good evolution to be able to continuously expand our own creative stuff so that when we do return to Cannes, knock on wood, one day, it is with a project and a film that we are very excited about and has been accepted to play in some part of the festival. And being able to then once again use that as our next stepping stone to take stock of like how far we've come, where we're at.
Yeah.
I think that it's not off the table. Things are in the works.
So fast forward from that, Ari brings The Stick Up to life, one of our collaborators, co-producers at a time. And he does a lot of the heavy lifting of getting The Stick Up picked up as a made-for-TV film. And even that was a low-budget, challenging production to get done. But at least you went into that one a little bit more qualified in the sense that there is a bit of a budget to play with. It is going to be finding an audience via the broadcaster.
Yeah.
And it's something to look forward to. Was there any change in your mindset and how you approached that project, given the change in those elements?
I think after the beginning, for us, it was like, what next?
Yeah.
It's like we've begun. And it just seemed like a natural stepping stone, especially when the opportunity did present itself with the local TV station, that we could present a film project to them. And it was, again, one of those like right place, right time as well, where I think this next project was a little bit more ambitious. It was obviously a feature-length film. So it wasn't going to be theatrical, but it was on TV, which again, as a evolution of where we were at, I think felt like a natural progression as well. And again, I'm kind of like following all the different chronologies of like my influences. Spielberg, his first film also was made for TV. Even like Stanley Kubrick had always spoken about like, just make a film good enough that they let you make the next one, And that was always kind of like the guiding light. Like, as long as it's not shit, we can at least hope to get some people on board for the next one. And yeah, Stick Up just seemed like a nice way for us to develop our skills even further and just kind of like push ourselves outside the comfort zone. You know, we still kept it relatively self-contained. So I was always very much aware of like what restrictions were on us, you know, especially from a bit of that producing mindset. I think also just because we were constantly in communication and able to understand where each other comes from. So like I respected as like the producing side, like I'm not going to come and pitch you some crazy sci-fi movie that's going to require all this crazy shit. It was like, okay, this is what we can do. And similarly, you were able to support the vision and, you know, guide us through that whole trajectory. So I think for me, it was just a matter of how much we can leverage the next opportunity.
And I think achievability is something that every scriptwriter has to consider. I remember talking about this on an interview that I was giving once where they were asking me some questions. And I used the Game of Thrones example. I said, like, you know, Game of Thrones was such a big project, you know, series and so many seasons later and just the cost to make that. So it's almost like in South Africa, you're not allowed to even think at that level because the chances that anybody's going to pick it up and get it made.
It doesn't exist.
It's not going to happen. So as writers, you almost have to, you know, still hold on to some version of production understanding and say, if I'm going to write this in here, what are the chances I'm going to find, you know, the ability for them to even achieve
what's
this?
the feasibility that this is going to be a thing? And I think that's something that a lot of creatives get a bit short-sighted about in that they think they're just going to write their masterpiece and it'll just become magically arrive or get made somehow. And I think that's a little naive. I've been way more pragmatic also just from how we've collaborated and understood how the sausage gets made a bit. That this stuff, it's like, what is, like you said, what is achievable? Like, what can you do? And again, going back to like the influences, you know, Robert Rodriguez, guy behind like From Dusk Till Dawn and like Sin City and all these really awesome films. He started very much ground level, knowing like, okay, what location can he use? He's got a location. What actors? What are his elements? And then from there, building a story out of that. And that was kind of the same approach that we took. You know, like again, the beginning, the short film, shot it at my house. We were like, what have we got? I had a location. We could use it. Shot at your place, little bits, whatever, like around. Like we were just like, what is on hand? And I think if you're looking to make anything, it's really about like what do you think is actually achievable, you know, and using that as your guiding light to say, okay, if you've only got a house and a car, what is the most exciting story you can tell with a house and a car?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, let's also say that the Stick Up went on to win a SAFTA for Best Made for TV Movie. It got that accolade locally. And I think that also was a really good, you know, sort of reflection of what we were doing, because even though it was low budget, even though it was very much within the challenges that came with that, we turned out on screen something that stood apart for that year's candidates.
I mean, that was cool. It was like very unexpected. Again, one of those wing on the prayers where we're just like, screw it, what's the worst? Like, why not? Submitted it. And yeah, we just got very lucky that it seemed to get recognized and gave us that extra bit, again, just building our credibility, you know, just building our sort of CV of what we've done and making us look just a little bit more bankable. You know?
Well, let's be fair. We behaved like we were at the Oscars and we just won like best film that year or something like that.
Damn right. Damn right.
Which again, I think is important. You know, I always talk about the hilltops thing, you know, Mandela's quote about celebrating the hilltops and reflecting when you're there. And it's kind of like a big deal that whenever those moments come up on the journey, take the time to get excited about it, take the time to celebrate it, because we found that we just don't know when the next one is going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Because, again, back to our timeline, the SAFTA is happening in about 2017.
Yo.
And then from 2017, for the next few years, we're back in development and you're writing and all sorts of things are happening, but we don't have a next project lined up.
Yeah.
We're having all these conversations in the various places. I'm going to every other festival or market and seeing who the people are. And we obviously, remember, we were learning on the job on this journey and even finding those different places. I remember I went to AFM in 2019, which was supposed to be like a market and place where film business is done. They don't even show films there. It's only producers and salespeople and agents and that kind of thing. But suddenly you're in this journey. Many years are going by, and we're not even at our first feature. And I remember 2019 so clearly because King Dog was happening. And we felt so close. We were like literally
could touch it.
Yeah, we could touch it, right? And then it didn't happen. And that was like one of our big disappointments on the journey. And I mean, I can't even imagine from your side how that felt, because as a producer, you kind of like dealing with a lot of the nitty gritty work that is paperwork and getting, we got the DTI approval done and all of those things that happened. And you kind of like start to feel like, hey, this is about to go down, and then it doesn't.
Just
how does that feel?
Feels great, man. I love getting
feels great.
Crushing disappointment is my favorite feeling. No, it was it fucking sucked, but it was also like, I mean, after Stick Up, it was like, okay, now it's time for a feature film. We kind of had that. Like, all right, we've done a short, we've done a TV movie. Now this feels like a good time for us to try and at least push now the next project. So we had a couple in the works, and we still do.
Yeah,
Some of them are still around, and with varying degrees of success and starting, we kind of got through. I mean, we were pitching back to channels about some of the stuff as well, and for whatever reason, these things just kind of didn't go all the way. And then King Dog, particular script of ours seemed to be pretty well received, so that all the stages got into place, introducing some new players back in the day.
Some names that we won't mention.
And outed and came through. But yeah, we were like at the point where we just needed to like get one or two more signatures, I think.
Yeah.
Between the DTI, the IDC, all of those big guys. And for all the usual reasons that sometimes these things don't work out, we just kind of had the rug pulled out. Not to mention that little thing called the pandemic,
which came up very quickly,
and
early 2020,
derail most of the progress that we'd made, because everything kind of shut down as well. So that kind of put us in that position. So it was a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah,
But from the ashes did
we
Phoenix rise.
Well, I remember because early 2020, pandemic happens and everything shut down. You and I go to Nando's, so from one chicken joint to another. We sit down and we say, well, what are we going to do now? Because everything's in shutdown, the world's going to shit, and we still are ever the optimistic filmmakers that say we surely can get something done here. And sure as anything, as 2020 progressed, we managed to pull off the Domestic.
Boom, son. Yeah, that was an interesting one, because at least, and I mean, King Dog had come together in such a way that we had our own investments in the project. And we'd put together our own money, we'd saved a bunch of shit and all of that stuff. So it was like part of the pie. When all the rest of the pie fell out, we still had our little piece.
What do we do with what we've got in our hands?
Exactly. So we still had that chunk of that. And I also recall we were just like discussing, like, what could you do? Could you make a movie in like one house?
I even remember we said, can we go back to the Stick Up approach to low budget money? Like, like the Stick Up kind of budget was like the reference point for, could we make another movie like with the kind of money we had for the Stick Up?
And we were like, yeah, why not?
Why not? I mean, and again, I think again, the beauty of you being a writer is that you can almost retrofit the film to meet the budget kind of thing. Like you can almost write in reverse.
But that's, and I think that is the skill I would highly recommend writers to develop for themselves, especially for making films and stuff, is just because you have to know what you can put together. Like what is it that you if you don't have any money, making a really awesome sci-fi craziness is just not gonna, it doesn't seem feasible. maybe in a year or two when AI is caught up to being able to just generate what you want. But yeah, back in the day for us, it was very much about like, okay, these are the resources. You got to kind of like be smart with how you allocate them. So once King Dog kind of fell away and we were like looking at, okay, here's what we've got left. It just became a matter of going, okay, cool. Like I can do something. If we have one location, 3-4 actors, that's it.
Yeah.
Keep it domestic.
Keep it domestic. Well, I want to spend a few minutes here and just kind of unpack a little bit because the domestic was our first feature. It was something that we had challenged ourselves. It's something that we put all the risk from our own, resources out there. And I think if anybody's watching that is yet to get that first feature out the way, some of the practical things that we had to do and some of the stories we could tell around the domestic is probably going to be valuable. So the first thing from my side is like I say, you retrofitted the script based on what you knew we had as money, more or less. And let me say, from a producer point of view, the budget went up even from that figure. So we had to figure it out as time went on. So be prepared for that the budget is never the budget, you would hope to play with. Tashi came on board and was kind and generous to us and gave us her house. Now, let me say this. This is Bradley's sister and her husband buying a new house that they have barely moved into themselves yet. And here comes brother saying, hey, before you move in, how's about you let me make my movie in here? And they say yes. How did you even get that right?
I don't think we got that right. We love you, Tash and Dan. Thank you. But it's one of those where it's like, the pandemic was rough. We can all agree.
Yeah.
But without the pandemic, we would not be where we're at.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where it's like right place, right time. Like the alignment and like the confluence of events that kind of just like created the perfect version of us needing to do what we needed to do to make this film was kind of biblical in a way. Because, again, this, our previous project had fallen through, but we'd been saving a shit ton to get that project off the ground. So it didn't come out, but we'd already saved the money for it. So it wasn't like we needed to find the money to make this film. It was there for us, thank God. And then it was like, okay, my sister, recently married, looking at a place to move in with her husband, finds an awesome house, shows us around, like, look where we're going to move in. I'm thinking, this is an awesome location.
You're not sitting there celebrating, sister. You're seeing film set.
I'm like, this could totally work because it's also empty, so it hasn't even been furnished. They haven't moved in yet. And it's like, holy shit, if we remove on this, there's that sweet spot where they're still arranging all that stuff. They already own the place, but it's going to be sitting empty for a while. And let's fucking go. Not to mention, because it's the pandemic, a lot of the crews were out of work. A lot of the people that we needed to like make the project come together were kind of like also just sitting at home because nothing was really happening. So that allowed us to find the right people and make those right kind of conversations happen, because it was just this little sweet moment in time that gave us the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I mean, thank fuck my family are very supportive and we're totally on board to help realize some crazy shit. And I kind of pitched them and asked very nicely what they would be, if they would be willing to bestow upon us their humble abode. And they said yes, not realizing what they were getting into, that was for sure, nor did we, I think, fully recognize. But by the grace of the powers above, they said yes. And that was kind of I think the first signal that was like, all right, this could be real.
Yeah. And, so again, if you're tracking with us for the how to make your first feature, so we have our location and Tashi's house became the dominant location in our film. There were a few other locations that I had to source and find ways to make happen, which we did. And we got a lot of support when people found out what we were doing, and especially the way we were doing it. I mean, but when you make a first feature and just about any big project that you want to go to that you're going to take some risks and you don't have the full green lit support from somewhere big, get ready to see some practical ways of how that happens. So we have number one, sister's house became the location. My sister was the caterer. So she just happened to be a real caterer in KZN. But my brother-in-law, who's now passed and sadly never got to see the film.
Rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. But him and my sister just gave up their lives, their time, and they came and they stayed with us for a period of time, and they provided the catering services. Now, catering is a need on a film project. It's just one of those things you're going to need. And finding a film caterer, they may be negotiable, they may be a lot of things, and they will support it. But in our case, the money wasn't even enough to go that route. So literally you're calling another family favor to come in and literally go out and buy those, whatever the groceries
ingredients
of it is, and make food for the crew. And that was like another practical thing that happened on the film.
And that's talking like 3 meals a day virtually?
Yeah, like the full catering
like
need.
For like at least, I don't know, like
12-hour set.
For like 40 people sometimes?
Yeah,
plus,
yeah.
Depending on the day, it was, not a small task.
Yeah, so like I said, luckily enough, it was an experienced caterer. She wasn't just taking a chance on this, but she did, forego the cost. She didn't charge us, it was something that was being done out of love and support for a brother and a brother. So you start to see this trend of how people often think that these things are fancier and happen at a level that they don't necessarily, have to be. Shout out to Ntato Mashishi, who was our wardrobe stylist, and all those clothes that he brought to the project, all sponsored from his relationships. So we get one guy to say yes, and from him, all these other doors start opening. So that saves budget.
It was incredible. Between that, that was the thing. I think every single person who was involved had given up or at least made some kind of accommodation to where we were at the level. Our other 2 producers are still Tamisho Masha again. We had a great vibe with him on the beginning, and he kind of carried through with us into the domestic. So he, as our producer, was also an awesome actor, and he did not take a salary for his acting.
Yeah.
He was part of the producers, so obviously that was part of the deal at the back end and sales and stuff, but he did not take in as an actor, he was kind of working for free. And that was also like a huge thing, because someone of his talent just lends that credibility to the film that we really would have had to otherwise probably pay out of our ass for and not be guaranteed even to get that. So, knowing that he was already like a valuable entity was fantastic. So having those resources around, he also put together our production design.
Well, even Tato himself was a result of Tumisho's relationship. So that was a door that he opened first before Tato opened further doors, So yeah, production design, Boozware came on board, found a sponsor of all the furniture that was there. Greg from Design, what was their company called? Design Plus. Sorry,
Plus.
Design Plus was Greg, and they gave us all this furniture and provided, just a really high-end set. That was something that was important. When you've got one location, you needed to really maximize.
Well, the crazy part was, we have an awesome house, but there was nothing in it because no one had lived. Everyone's moved out. There was nothing going on. So and this wasn't a small house. This was there's a lot of space, and it's okay, not only do we have to fill it, but we have to make it feel right for the story and for the characters and for this kind of production that we're trying to put together. So it can't just look like we've thrown in some random shit. So seeing how all those elements were able to also just kind of fit out, it's just all the pieces needed to align how they needed to align.
Yeah. Let us say that when it comes to films, filmmaking is one of the most collaborative processes you'll ever be a part of, and it's certainly no one person can ever feel more special than the other in a team that's trying to make a film. and all these names that we've kind of mentioned, but every single person on the Domestic is very and truly special to Brad and I, because you must remember also that from the crew to the cast to the different people that were present during this late November, early December 2020 period, these are people that are going into Christmas, the festive season, where needs for like finances are probably at its highest, because, you know, the festive season, expensive time. And they're going home with their last gig being a very low paying gig, if it was paying at all, you know? And that is why I say every single person that I know from a producer perspective that stepped up for us on the Domestic will always have my ear, will always have my time, and will always be very special to me. And many of those people have standing invites right now to come on here so that we can show love, tell their story, and reminisce a little bit further with that. 100%,
man. I think that they're all invaluable to the creation of this insane journey that we decided to, you know, bring them all on. Matteo at DOP as well, you know, finding him and having him buy into the project as well was a massive win. I mean, he was the whole eye of the film and just brought that level of sort of cinematic flair to the proceedings that, again, you're like kind of like freaking out about, will you achieve this? I mean, most of these like sort of like high-end DOPs and cinematographers charge a shitload. So, you know, having him sort of understand where we were at and being willing to participate and then also bring his own collaborators and find that middle ground for all of us was just one of the, it was just really cool that these things just kind of played out the way they played out. And that was what I think was just such a unique beast for what this first film for us turned out to be.
Yeah, so the Domestic goes on to be sold on Amazon Prime in Africa. It gets a distribution in the North American territory. It does something for us, but I think where we really find our value more than the broadcast or the sort of like audience in that way is in the festival space. And the Domestic did pretty well there. What from a writer, director, filmmaker perspective, what about our festival run are you most proud of, and that you think that was the thing that set us apart there?
I'd say that for us, I think it was such a, again, it's always a nice validation, because you never know how these things are going to go. You never know when you're making a film. Again, there's the sort of the old cliche that a film is made 3 times. First time you write it, first time you shoot it, and the first time you see it, like screen it. You know, and at every step of the way, you're kind of like always constantly second guessing and being like, does this make sense? Are you fucking it up? Like, holy shit, I don't know what we're doing. All the fun, usual things. So once you get it finished and you start putting it out there and it's responding, that the response is in the positive, it's like it's a big relief. And for us, I think the film ended up clearing over 30 awards internationally. And it's screened around the world in various territories from all over North America, Mexico, Europe, the UK, like all pretty much everywhere we could get it in, we got it. And the fact that they were accepted at most of these places was just a huge for us that we'd done something that wasn't shit, that we'd succeeded. Yeah. You know, I think that was what really kind of gave us that feeling of accomplishment. And again, just vindication that the investment and the time and resources that we put into this thing weren't just for nothing. You know, we actually managed to not only turn a profit, which is one of the small miracles of film, especially in South Africa. Like making a film that actually made money back was a huge thing for us. And being recognized at some of the bigger festivals in LA and Austin, Texas and things were special moments that I think we definitely held on to.
Talk a little bit about Austin and how, because I know Austin for us was like probably the biggest of the recognitions for the film.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier that like offline, if you want to say it that way, that if we had known better, we would have probably put more of our efforts into getting an Austin going than some of the other things we've prioritized at the time. Why Austin? And you know, because I think it also helps filmmakers decide when they're prioritizing which festivals to approach, you don't just throw everything and hope it sticks. You know?
Yeah,
you should have some strategy.
Well, exactly. Strategy, I think, especially when it comes to the festival side. And this is just stuff that, like, I don't even know how much of this is taught in, like, film school, because I remember from my days, they only, you'll get the lectures on, like, filmmaking, but the film business and the film industry is its own course that it should have, not even just for a producer, but as a filmmaker, as a director, as a creative, as anyone wanting to do this type of thing, I think it's important to understand how those things work. And that's why for us, again, everything was very calculated in that the kind of film that we thought we could make on a low budget was a horror movie, right? Because horror films, by past experience and just record, is that they turn out to be the most profitable and the most sellable. They're not reliant on like big names or big costs to succeed. They're very much conceptually driven. So stuff like, there's a reason like stuff like the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity and those kinds of like low budget movies manage to make such successes on themselves, because they're just really strong concepts, strong visions. And that's kind of like how we used our own film as a platform, using those kinds of lessons that we've seen as case studies in like previous projects. And from that, with that in mind, it was like, okay, now that we've got it, who are we targeting? Like, who do we want to see film? Well, people who are into horror movies. So using that as our springboard, it was like, okay, breaking down the list of like, okay, what are the best festivals for that genre? Who's going to be the most responsive, do we think, for what we're kind of doing, for where we're playing? So we used that as our litmus, and from there it was able to, get some of the more like sort of horror festival specific places around. Screamfest being the most one of the most lucrative for us. That was a nice big recognition. That was based in LA, and that was also one of the more seminal genre festivals in the States. And then, sort of the big surprise for us was getting accepted into the Austin Film Festival, which is more sort of known as like the Writers Festival. Their focus isn't so much as on genre, but it's more on sort of screenwriting and that side of it. So when we were accepted there, we were also nominated for like their horror genre award, I think it was called the Dark Matters Jury Award, which was like a huge achievement for us. Just because, again, there's a lot more industry types, a lot more established screenwriters that attend that kind of the festival, and then we won the Dark Matters Jury Award fest in Austin that year, which unfortunately we weren't there for. We had to pick and choose, so we opted to go to Screamfest, which was awesome, great first time in LA, and we had a blast. Unfortunately, we would have liked to be at the Austin to accept that award, but c'est la vie. It was awesome that it happened, and that was the celebration from that, and again the status that we managed to get from having that as part of our achievements list also helped sort of open like a lot more doors for us as we kind of kept forward.
Yeah, and I must say, I mean, we picked Screamfest. Austin was like a week later, but what was challenging logistically for us was the fact that there was a week between the two, and we couldn't stay in the States for a week just, for no good reason.
Struggling artists.
It's a costly affair. And I mean, in as much as, the NFVF are so supportive of filmmaking in South Africa, and a lot of our trips were in some way subsidized and supported by them, and we're very grateful for that. It's unfortunately, it's just not enough sometimes. And we as beneficiaries, we got to understand that there's also so much to go around. So there are limitations, right? And you have to pick. And whether we, in retrospect, would have picked better or differently, these are the things you learn.
The game is the game. The cards fell as they fell, but I think we leveraged what we could with what we knew at the time. Some things we would have done very differently had we known new things. How we handled some stuff, I caution all of us to, just be very diligent in terms of who you get involved with and what kind of deals you secure, the people that you work with. You want to be very specific and understanding about who exactly you're going to be dealing with. Because I think, some of the harsher lessons are thinking you're getting in something and then getting something else.
So lo and behold, we did go to Austin, and we premiered our next film internationally at the Austin Film Festival, which was great. And we, for that one, were able to be present for it and all of that. So somehow, even though it wasn't for that particular receiving the award moment for the domestic, Soweto Blaze was able to get in there. And Soweto Blaze was our next feature film project, managed to do a festival run of sorts, and is available currently on Netflix worldwide. I think in our journey's trajectory, it's like it's really nice to see that our graph has been upward in this direction.
I mean, yeah, and again, the journey of Soweto Blaze, I mean, that was also like about, in total, from like the day that I wrote it to getting it made and produced, was also probably about like maybe 8 years, because I had written that around the same time as the domestic. And it was that had gone through, I think, like 2 or 3 production companies, that one of them had optioned it to try and make it. The option came and went. They had like a year and a half to try and work on it, get it funded. Didn't happen. Came back to me. Then they tried again. Another company tried again with it to do it, I think even with like a Chinese film company. At one stage, there was going to be an Asian lead in there. And during the selling and pitching of that film, that was when we came in touch with one of the other producers who joined that project, Cebu, and Lou, and they were part of Mindset Concepts, and they came on board. And it was also through Cebu facilitating our pitch to Netflix to get this project off the ground. Again, it was one of those where it was like, he told me that this was happening, and I was like, well, let's try and pitch. At the time, it had a different title. The working title was Taking Tundi, if you recall that. But we were like, yeah, let's see if they like that. And he was like, cool, send me the stuff. Put it all together, did the pitch, and lo and behold, again, we just got accepted. They liked it. We had to do the big pitch to Netflix, the big presentation to, like, I don't know, something like 70 people on the call
on a virtual call.
On a virtual Zoom call. There were like 70 people that we had to like present the film to. And yeah, we were one of 6 selected for the NFEF Aspiring Filmmakers?
Emerging
Filmmakers initiative. And from there it was fun times.
Yeah, and Soweto Blaze, when you went into a completely different direction with Soweto Blaze, I mean, we're coming off a dark matters, horror, very drama-like film, like the tone of it was serious in many ways to everything that Soweto Blaze is not.
Which is just, I think it's important for us to be able to diversify, because, again, especially in this industry with where we're at, our audiences are not always going to have the niche that we might want to have. It's a lot more broad. So being able to kind of jump around, I think, is a skill worth cultivating. So again, it was all very calculated in that we'd made the horror film. It was cool. We're looking at like what would be the general audience kind of looking for, and like a lighthearted comedy, something that didn't take itself too seriously, that was very much on that polar opposite of like the domestic, which was this like sort of heavy horror film with a lot more dramatic undertones, playing in like superstition and African witchcraft, to pretty much like a stoner comedy that was just like a bit of a silly exercise in getting high and enjoying and embracing the stoner culture of South Africa. Because I mean, I think it really is kind of like a love letter to Soweto and just getting stoned and that aspect of it and that culture of it, And yeah, again, people seem to dig it. We cracked the top 10 within the first week of release. And yeah, like you said, it got us to Austin, which again, when you look at the stepping stones, the domestic paved the way. We'd already made a bit of a relationship with
Festival.
And Andy was the sort of organizer back then, and he had corresponded with me about the next project and was interested to know what was going on. So once we had Soweto Blaze, it was like, okay, well, now we've already got a cool vibe there. That seems like a nice premiere for us to play with. And sent them the film. They dug it. They were keen for us to come through, and we got nominated for their comedy award.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Comedy Vanguard.
That's the one. And that was also an awesome, and that gave us a nice reason for us to go and attend. And once again, thanks to the NFEF, we managed to have a bit of a subsidy to help us travel through there. And it gave us an awesome insight, again, into like really ground level industry with like the big heavyweights, you know, like being in the same room as some of these major writers like J.J. Abrams and the people who'd been behind Shane Black, just like some of these really huge heavyweight Hollywood hitters. So being able to just soak in their stories and their energy and listen to these people and meet some of our other peers that had explored such their own journeys. It was a great, humbling, beautiful experience for us to be able to use off of our own endeavors.
And so we get to the end of our current achieved projects. That's where we are at in our 10 years. That's what we've managed to do with 10 years. But I think the last thing I want to just say quickly about Soweto Blaze and just about any of the projects is that, you know, they ultimately, when they get done and during active production, they become jobs. There's a lot of doors that open for people. I mean, I've had Palesa on the podcast. She's my first guest for episode 1 of this podcast. And for her, Zaza was a breakout role for her, you know, and it's a big deal. Like, you can't even imagine what a big deal getting that, being cast as Zaza was for her, and what it did for her confidence, her career, just her journey, you know. And that's just one example. And you remember I did the internship thing, and there were lots of, you know, students that accessed the set life. And
totally.
So filmmaking, when we can get to do it, represents that much more to people, and it opens doors, and I think the job creation side of it should never be. So even if people are looking to, support film, or to even help fund film, they should realize that it's a big thing, that it's more than just a bunch of guys just trying to make a movie for entertainment's sake. There's a lot of benefits behind the scenes, you know.
Completely, man. I think it's, and credit to you, because you've always been very aware of that and how we can use what we're doing to try and elevate the people that may not be in the same position.
Yeah.
You know, like the internship, and just being able to constantly bring in as many as we can to help, whether or not it's just to shadow some of the other crew members and give them a sense of like what this machine looks like.
Yeah.
And just using it as a springboard for education and awareness with the people that are like aspiring filmmakers or still students and stuff. Like, I think that's all a really important element of what anyone should be doing. But the fact that, you know, we make a big point, 33 Films is a much more, I think, sensitive to those kinds of things. So with everything we do, I mean, we did it on, I think from Stick Up even, we had some interns running around. The Domestic had some interns running around, and these interns went into working into the industry. A lot of them finished on our film and had jobs lined up with these on other projects.
A senior crew that they got to work with, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it's been a really awesome, that's sort of like the fun garnish around, you know, our own journey, is getting other people to take theirs.
Excuse me. And I think for me, it's always like we never know when we're going to have the next one in our hands to be influencing some of these things. So while we can, we must, you know, and like you said, we certainly try. As you know, and I think you thought I was smoking some shit when it came to this, that I started to try to pivot out of the producing into a little bit of directing as well, where I wanted to do my first short, and I went off on a solo journey. I didn't rope you into the journey too much, because it was just a path I was trying to explore, and to, you know, I've always tried to be like the creative producer more than the bean counting producer, you know, and to add value in the creative conversation. And when we talk about our scripts, and when you bring me scripts, I try to apply that side of my mind. And so for me, pivoting into like directing a little bit, whether it was in the commercial space on some of the smaller jobs we got to do, or whether it's in like the short that I'm yet to make, but hope to maybe get done at some point. When it comes to directing, Do you think that it is very much you either have it or you don't? Or do you think a person can learn to be a director?
I definitely think it's a skill that you can learn. I don't think it's as much of you've either got it or you don't. I think that some people maybe more have a penchant for it, so it comes more naturally to them, as with any kind of endeavor, I think. But I don't think it's such a abstract skill that it's, because at the end of the day, the important thing for me is it kind of comes down to two things. It's having a vision and being able to manage people. Like if you can have those two things like in check and can be confident enough in those two elements, then I think you can direct. Because at the end of the day, it's about maintaining a consistent way of getting something executed. So if it's a film or a series or a music video, it's about being able to kind of bring everyone together for the same vision so that everyone is unified in what has to be put on screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's when things start to fall apart, is when a director isn't able to unify his crew to say, this is how it should play out. And not in a draconian, like, this is my way. It's just that this is the vision for the film and everything has to just be in service of the vision. So always being open to ideas and collaboration with the knowledge that there is a way that it needs to be presented, and if it's not following that vision, then it's just not a good idea for this kind of particular thing. Not that it's, not that a bad idea is bad. It's just not a good idea for this particular project. And similarly, being able to manage the personalities and the creatives that are involved, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel important and everyone thinks that what they're doing is important. And on a film set, everybody is fucking important because every single element has to work to get the best product available. You're not you can have the best acting on screen, but if the sound guy isn't recording it well, no one's going to give a shit because they're going to be like, I can't hear what he's saying. Similarly, the cameras aren't lit correctly. You can have the best production design, but if no one can see it, no one's going to give a shit.
Yeah.
So being able to manage all those kinds of elements and be open to everyone's ideas and know that if they're all working in unison, then should be okay.
Yeah, I must say, before I even had the inclination to try, I watched a Tarantino video that really pushed me over that edge, because he was very much saying that to be the director is like, you're multi-talented in the sense of you write it, you can direct it, you go on to edit it, you have musical talents that you can add score to the film. So there's so much that, like with the beginning, it was Bradley Katzen credit throughout the thing, right?
Because we couldn't pay anyone to do anything else, just to be clear.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. But what Tarantino said was that, you just got to, like you said, you got to have that vision. You got to know that you can bring in a cinematographer to give you the kind of visuals on camera. You can bring in a production designer to execute the sets that you want to see. You can bring in a costume designer to give you the kind of look of what the characters must do, as long as you have the sense of what that needs to be.
Exactly. And I think again, just to be clear, you don't have to know all the different disciplines. You don't have to know how to handle a camera. But you need to have the vision to say to the camera guy, this is what it needs to look like, or this is what it should look like. And then have him be like, okay, and what if we tried it like this? Or if you want to do that, this could be a cool thing. And then being able to, again, have that conversation and that collaboration to be like, that makes sense, let's try it, or that's not really what we're looking for, blah, blah, blah. And letting these kinds of things evolve naturally so that everyone understands what they're trying to achieve with you on the film.
Yeah, and I think the reason I asked the question more than anything else is back to the lessons and the informational side of our conversation to up-and-coming filmmakers. Because when I started out in the industry 20 years ago, I got to do it as an internship and as an unpaid gig. And I had to quickly look around me and identify what it is I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Measuring it against my strengths and my capabilities. And I could see, be it a camera department, a sound department, lighting, whatever, and make that choice. And I think a lot of young filmmakers, especially those that are having the opportunity and the privilege of going to film school, they have to identify where they're going to fit. But what's interesting is that even if you pick a lane and you go with it 20 years later, you can still consider other areas.
Yeah.
And you can go and play in that space and you can change, So commit to the thing that you're most strong in so that you can build a career from it, and then seek new opportunities. So don't feel like once you've picked a thing, it's not like the B movie where once you get the job, that's the job
That's
forever
it.
until you die, right?
100%. Completely, man. I think that it's totally, it's a matter of like, and also time changes. You change over time. You know, starting in one position and going for it over a couple of years, either you kind of reach what you think is like the ceiling, or you feel like you've achieved what you want in there, or you suddenly notice another element of what's going on and be like, actually, this is something I'm more, you just kind of start feeling that pull to something else. And yeah, I think half the fun is being able to diversify again and just being able to step outside whatever lane you think you're in and see what other lanes there are, you know?
Yeah. Okay, to wrap it up, we're thinking about this rapid fire kind of exciting thing, you know, first word that comes to mind type of game, whatever.
Great.
But with you, I don't want to necessarily go that route.
Okay.
I was thinking more specifically just as a lighter finish. What are you watching right now? Like what's got your attention in the film world? Like what's on your list, you know, on Netflix, for example, or wherever?
Yeah, sure.
You get your
I don't think it's not a good question.
Really?
I'm much more, so I've become very picky about it. So right now, I would say, I think I just saw One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
That pretty much lives up to the hype. I think there's enough said online about it, and it's probably the best film of the year, I think.
Okay.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing. Benicio del Toro is amazing. Some newcomers are amazing. It's one of those just like, it's a film that really does have like every element of it. So that I can highly recommend. That's been my North Star of faith in cinema kind of coming back and being restored a bit. But we've had some really good stuff. I mean, this year's been an amazing year for horror. Is
it a contender for the best film at the Oscars next year?
No question.
Okay.
I think if it's not already like a shoo-in, I think it's easily going to be, it'll definitely be nominated. I would probably say it's going to win unless there's some other surprises still coming, but that seems like the front runner right now.
Didn't they say Sinners has a good chance of being up there?
It did until One Battle After Another.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting race to see what however the voters decide to do this. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't follow it as much as I did anymore, but I think that it's definitely one of the front runners for that. So that's like the newest one in terms of series. I'm kind of like on the escapist train. Only Murders in the Building.
Okay.
I've got a soft spot. It's like the duvet coziness is legit in that. I've been and I'm a sucker for Steve Martin, so
okay,
that's the one.
Favorite director?
Sorry, actually, what I just started, which I've really been digging, is Monster, that Ed Gein.
Okay. On Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, on Netflix, the serial killer thing, Ryan Murphy's show.
Okay.
Yeah, very fucked up.
Oh,
very fun, but
again, that's a Ryan Murphy world, right?
Oh yeah, no, the tone is that's what I dig about him. His tone on how he presents these monsters is, I get a kick out of it, and his angle on showing, he does a really interesting thing in terms of like how this figure's influence has like permeated entertainment and culture and everything, specifically in America. And like Ed Gein, he was like the OG serial killer in terms of Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like all those crazy things all kind of stem back to this insane individual. So the way his show unpacks some of that is, I found really interesting. I wasn't expecting it to be it's not just a cookie cutter, this is the serial killer story. So that's probably been my favorite thing at the moment that I've been watching.
Favorite director?
Favorite director? I mean, that changes on a given day. Off the top of my head right now, I'll go with Paul Thomas Anderson. But, we've got David Fincher, Chayan, what's his name? The director of Oldboy. I forgot his name now because I suck at names. But yeah, there's a handful.
Okay. And if you could cast the actor in your next film or your big dream film, who would it be? Male and female.
Is he alive or dead?
Okay, alive or dead.
I mean, well, I'd go with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Rest in peace as well. I think he's the one actor I would have loved to have a chance to work with. Female, Sure, it would probably be a toss-up between. I mean, Meryl Streep's the easy answer because she's just amazing. But I would say, sure. Let's see. I don't know who's the one that I would want to cast. I don't know. I'm trying to think. That's the one. That's an interesting question. Naomi Watts would probably be...
The whole time I've got Naomi Watts in my head because of Firetown, but I'm waiting to see if you're still there.
She was the shit. Or maybe Margot Robbie, just to see what she can bring to the party.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much for taking us down memory lane. It was nice because it was our memory lane, which was really cool. I want to wrap up with one story that I can tell, but you're going to tell us how it felt having that experience. You were at the airport when we were at Austin. So when we travel, there are these festivals, and one of the nice things about going to the festivals is you're accessing people that you otherwise wouldn't access in the real world. And with us, especially with me as a producer, it's often like you've got to jam that networking opportunity, that connection, because you never know where this person may add value or fit into a project. And we have a project that we're probably, that's the first script I read when Brad even said, would you like to read my scripts? And that film is yet to be made and is, our entire career's worth of thing. It's still the one we want to get made, right? And then we were in Austin, and this woman was showing one of her films that she actually directed and all of that. And we literally had an opportunity because she showed her film the one night, but because she was such a big name, we never got to actually speak to her, because after she was done, she did a Q&A and whatnot, but for us to go and pitch, like, will you read our script? That was just not possible because, they treated her with that kind of thing and she was whisked away at the end. And then the next day, Brad was leaving Austin before I was. And I get a call from him all excited at the airport because guess what? There she is. Tell us.
Damn. Yeah. Lena Headey was our... and I'd like to change my answer. If I could work with one actress, maybe
it would be her.
Again, and this is one of those things of like, sort of right place, right time kind of thing where you never know what's going to happen, So yeah, obviously we're in Austin Film Festival for our project, and it's a whole thing, and we wanted to meet her. You tried, waited in the cold. And she rushed into the car and left. So we kind of thought that was over. And I thought it was a bit of a wing and a prayer. And yeah, I kind of just see her browsing a toy shop. And I'm freaking out of like, what are we to do? It's like, God damn it. I can't not. But at the same time, I'm like freaking out of like, oh my God, am I going to be that guy who's going to now, creepy fucking approach? So yeah. Call my support, my life coach of like, all right, dude, this is the situation. And it was just a matter of like, if I don't go over and say and introduce myself, it's going to be like, I'll end up killing myself for not knowing or like whatever.
What could have been.
Exactly. And after stalking her for probably too long than should be allowed in this toy shop, I mean, watching her buy like a lot of stuff, thank God, because she was there and it was giving me a chance to psych myself up and build up the balls to go over there. Eventually I was like, after chatting to you, it's like, all right, we're gonna do this. And I just, introduced myself, told her that I'd seen her screening, dug her film, would love to give her something to read that I think she'd be a great part of. And the miracle that she was agreed, gave me her email address and told me to send some stuff through. And there is... where we're at.
It sits as a line in the water, so to speak.
I should chase it up now that I think about it. But yes, that was a fun, gotta just try. You never know. This is the thing. Gotta ask. Just speak. That is comes back to what we were saying.
So for those of you that don't know, Lena Headey is from Game of Thrones. She played Cersei. So that is why she's big in that way. She's a really talented actress. And yeah, But the lesson there again is, I'm usually in our team, I'm the one that has what it takes to just go up to people and talk.
He's the hustle.
And Brad,
mouth.
not so much. And so that is why he had to make the call and all of that. But so if you're a filmmaker, you gotta seize the moment there, and you never know, and always be ready with your elevator pitch, the shortest version of what you're gonna have to say to catch their attention, and hopefully you will find that that leads to your project getting picked up.
You may be pleasantly surprised with the response. That's the...
Just speak, just ask.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Brad Katzen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you.
And you. Have a good one.